Well, one of them was attracted to my oldest sister, Rose, who was a pretty girl. And her story is very similar to mine. She also had to go to work and things like that. And he went with her. And Louis used to tag along and come along. And one day, he kept me, I never forget, I wasn't well, and I lost some weight, and I was very pale. And I was wearing a long black dress. And it was a knock on the door, and I opened the door, and there was Lou standing with his friend, two of his friends. And he looked at me. I said, "Oh, hello," because I knew him. They always came around. And from that time on, for some reason, he realized I was a person and I was different. I was a little more grown up or something. My illness had thinned me out, and I was sort of pale, and my hair was nice and all. And he says, "You know, Esther, I would like to take you out." Even though they used to come around, he never took me out on dates. And then it was the first time he asked me to go out with him. And that was the beginning of Lou Weinstein's courtship with Esther Goldstein.
How long was the courtship?
We must have gone about, let's see, by that time I was already about 18 years, I guess.
Did you break up for a while, or?
No, I don't remember.
Okay.
No, I don't think we ever broke up, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you get married?
I was living in Hetman Avenue at that time. I think I was 22 when we got married. 22 years of age when we got married. We had a hall. My mother took a hall. Not the nicest place in the world, but it was a hall. And it was a wedding. It was a very nice wedding. And I have a picture of myself married on the wall. And off we went to the Catskills for our honeymoon. I think it was Lakewood or Lakeside or something like that. In the Catskills. Monticello, I think, so it was around there. And that was the beginning of our married life.
Where did you live when you got married?
Where did I live? Well, we lived a very short while with my parents. And then we moved to Rockaway Parkway. 526 Rockaway Parkway. Or was it 514? 514 Rockaway Parkway. We moved in a 3-room apartment on the 3rd floor.
Your mother had a stroke. How did that change your life?
Oh, well. Unfortunately, my mother, at the age of 69, had a terrible stroke.
How old were you then?
I had to start figuring out. I was still, the teenagers are still living there. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I'll never forget, I came home and found my mother was in the hospital. And of course, it became very difficult. That I really had to work even harder, you know, help out in the house a little bit. And I had to hear how to go to school at night, work in the daytime, try to help a little with my mother. But we did get, I remember, a big Irish woman who came in. When my mother came home from the hospital, she couldn't move. I mean, she was paralyzed on her left hand and foot. And she was in Denver for a while. For the first year and a half, it was very difficult. But then she started treatments, and she wore high shoes. I have pictures of her with those high shoes, and she was able to start getting around a little bit. But that woman, that Irish woman, helped a lot. She used to come and help, and we all had help with things in the house, but it was never the same. My mother was never able to cook like she used to. My mother was the greatest cook in the world. So one thing, we may never have had money, but my mother always managed to get enough food together to make a good meal for us. She was a wonderful mother. That's the one thing I must say. Funny thing is, I can't say that about my father, but my mother was a wonderful mother.
How many kids did you have?
Did I have or did my mother have? that I have? I had 3 children. Grandma first, I had Wilma. 3 years later, I had Kenneth. And then 6 years later, 7 years later, she was the afterthought. He said, if it happens, it happens. It had to happen. Barbara was born. And she was a very nice, lovely little girl. But Wilma was no problem as a child. She was a very pretty little girl, very pretty. And I'll never forget, they always had a group of friends around. And I have to tell you this story. At the age of 16, we had a little birthday party, a sweet 16 party for my daughter. And there's always one boy that hung around my daughter more than anybody else. And his name was David. And David, all of a sudden, I noticed they were busy in my neighbor's house, running back and forth. I said, what's going on? I said, what's going on? It seemed that David gave my daughter a ring. On her 16th, he was 18, my daughter was 16. And to my daughter was the prettiest girl in the world. She was a very pretty girl. And I said, you're too young to make up your mind or anything. Why are you tying yourself? Well, they didn't listen to me. I guess they kept seeing each other, and as you see, they are very happily married. And I was never sorry that they got married once they did. And
what was your happiest memory growing up?
What your happiest memory growing up? I had many happy memories. I really have. By getting married, going on my honeymoon, I'll never forget, was one of my happiest memories. Having my wonderful children, and most times I had a lot of happiness with my children. They gave me a lot of happiness. Maybe I had a little problem with my Kenny. He wasn't the most amiable person, but even he settled down a little sometimes. And of course, my Barbara was my biggest surprise of my life. A girl that was never around the house. She was always running around to her friends, because all her friends were around the school, around the high school. So, and she used to beg me, please Mom, let's move there, let's move there. But I said, no, the neighbor is nice, but not that, so she used to go there all the time. I never hardly ever saw her. So I never knew that my daughter was such a bright person. You want me to tell you about her?
Sure.
Well, Barbara, as I said, surprised me. As I said, I didn't know too much about her because she never was around. But one day she came home from high school. She was graduating high school.
Mom, you had moved to Howard Beach. They were no longer on Rockaway Parkway.
Oh, by that time?
Yeah, but they insisted that my sister continue at Samuel J. Tilden and not move to the Queens High School Sam Adams. And that's why she was always at her friend's house. Okay? Because her friends, they were in a different school district altogether.
No, not the very beginning.
Not in the very beginning,
No,
but that's
but
when-
later.
Yes,
But later we moved.
right.
Yeah, we moved to, where was that, Queens?
Yes, we moved to Howard Beach.
To Howard Beach.
Linden
That's
Hills.
it.
Mhm.
To Howard Beach. We moved to a beautiful, thank God I was working and having a better job. Oh, I worked in, by the way, I've got to mention. As I said, all these years I worked always in factories, but doing a little easier work now. I didn't actually become I was a factory worker. I would assist the 4 people and the